Hey guys, in this video we're going to be doing an in-depth dive into the qualifications that I believe make for the best bolt-action rifle. Okay, this is going to be the video that upsets all the fanboys. I know you guys have real strong emotional attachments to the guns that you like, and I get that. Sometimes we like guns that aren't really that good. We like guns for maybe the historical significance of the gun or the event that it's tied to. Like, I get that. You can like guns, you can be a fan of guns that aren't necessarily like good. I get that. That aside, I'm going to be looking at features strictly from like a shootability or ergonomic sort of point of view and ignoring all the history and all the other aspects of these rifles. So before I start naming the features that I think are the better features of a rifle, I'm going to start off by saying there's three features that are bad. There's three things that are bad. And if a rifle has one of these three features, it's going to be automatically disqualified from me thinking of it as being like the best bolt-action rifle. Rimmed ammunition. Okay, I know all the Mosin and Enfield fans are very angry. I can hear your clitter-clatter on the keyboards. No, it's rimmed ammunition. It's very dated. There are many cons to having rimmed ammunition. I get there's pluses of having rimmed ammunition, especially for machine guns and whatnot. However, in a rifle, especially modern box magazine fed rifles, rimmed ammunition is pretty bad. Everybody knows about rim jams. There's also manufacturing issues that goes into making rimmed ammunition. That is it's not good. If the rifle shoots a rimmed ammunition, I'm just not even going to consider it from the list. Second is going to be rear locking lugs. Okay, rear locking lugs, everybody knows, are inferior to forward locking lugs. Pretty much most rifles moved away from rear locking lugs and moved towards forward locking lugs because of smokeless powder, right? So it used to be a lot of rifles way back in the day had rear locking lugs, like the Mauser 1871, the Schmidt-Rubin 1889. Those had rear locking lugs because of that, the lineage from black powder, right? You don't want the fouling with the lugs and everything. So if a rifle has rear locking lugs, it's not good. Rear locking lugs are inferior to front locking lugs, so no rear locking lugs. The third characteristic that I'm going to say that if the rifle has this, it's just going to be disqualified, is going to be a complicated or painful bolt disassembly. So this is sort of my own standard. If I'm taking apart a rifle's bolt and putting it back together, and if it causes me physical pain, if something is hard and I have to really focus and stress and grunt and actually my fingers hurt afterwards, I'm going to say that the bolt disassembly method on that rifle is not the best. So the gun that's excluded due to the complicated bolt disassembly is going to be the M95. Now I know that that's kind of like splitting hairs because it's not like super complicated. However, it is just a pain. It is too big of a pain. Aaron, I know that you know it. This thing is too complicated, more complicated than it needs to be to disassemble it. So I'm just going to exclude it, which is a little bit of a shame because otherwise it's not like a completely terrible rifle. It is kind of dated though. Now the two rifles that are disqualified due to rear locking lugs is going to be the otherwise not too bad French Moss 36. And I get the reasons for it or whatever. It's a backup rifle and all that stuff. I hear the Francophiles, but it's just the fact that it has rear locking lugs. It's not as good as front locking lugs, so it's just going to be disqualified. So I can already hear the comments about this one, but the Lee Enfield is going to be disqualified because it has a rimmed cartridge. So I mean the rim jam and the rim lock is pretty pretty well known about this. Also the rear locking lugs. The rear locking lugs are not as good as front locking lugs, and I get all of your excuses for it. Get that already, Lee Enfield fans. But it's just going to be disqualified. It's just not as good. Another rifle that's going to be disqualified from this due to the rimmed cartridge is going to be the Mosins. Even okay-ish Mosin like this Finn here. Rimmed cartridges just aren't as good. And if you're trying to defend the Mosin by saying that the Mosin action is even close to being as good as a Mauser or anything like that, I think you really need to evaluate your choices in life. So the first characteristic of a good bolt action rifle is going to be a barrel length between 450 and 600 millimeters. So that's about 18 to 24 inches. Really 24 inches, you're getting into that max sort of what you really want on a bolt action rifle barrel length. You don't really need anything more than 24 inches. Like you can kind of see that with a lot of like AR-10s and AR-15s and stuff like that today. You never really see them with barrel lengths longer than 20 inches, maybe 22 inches. 24 is like the absolute most you would see like a modern rifle maybe having, except for some crazy, long-range target shooting type. But for just a standard sort of shoulder rifle, 24 inches is going to be that max length that you want. Now, I'm going to include all the way down to 18 inches because I think a lot of sort of cavalry carbines and stuff like that are really nice and handy guns. However, when you get down into the cavalry length, say like with this Arisaka Type 38 carbine, this is a great rifle length, but really it's only as good as it is because of the 6.5 caliber. So really down to 18 inches might be a little too short for a good bolt action rifle, but I'm not going to exclude it. I'm going to say it can go about down there because that's a nice handy length whenever you get down to about that 18-inch length here. Now the K90K is at that max barrel length. It's right around like about 23.5 inches. So this is about the max barrel length that you want on a rifle. It's not bad. I would argue that maybe somewhere in between 23 and 18, that might be a sort of a better barrel length. But I'm gonna define the range in between there. Now because I cut off the barrel length at 24 inches, this is gonna exclude what otherwise I think is a pretty dang good bolt action rifle. It's going to exclude the 1917. The barrel length on this gun is about 28 inches, which is just, it's too much. It's too much to me. I think that the rifle length, as far as a general purpose rifle, is too long. And just sort of comparing it here with the K90K, so both the butts are sitting on the table. And now as I move it down, you can see how much longer the 1917 is. It's not a whole lot. I know, but I have to make that arbitrary cutoff somewhere, and I'm making the cutoff point at 24 inches, so sadly that excludes the 1917 from the list. So the next controversial qualification is going to be a turn-down bolt handle. And I get that some people prefer straight bolts. I get that there's a couple good pros of it, especially extracting stubborn cartridges by allowing you to get that extra leverage. I get that, but I think there's the fact that most modern bolt-action rifles today have turn-down bolt handles. I think that's a pretty telltale sign that turn-down bolts are better. When everyone's making them with turn-down bolt handles. Now here's an example of a rather classy rifle with a straight bolt handle. Now I'm going to kind of demonstrate here one of my big reasons for why I like turn-down bolt handles, and that is for the firing process of working the bolt from the shoulder. So you'll notice whenever I work the bolt on a straight bolt that my hand tends to kind of go up and around, then back, down, and around. So that is a lot more of an awkward angle to be working to extract a cartridge than in a turned down bolt handle when my hand tends to just sort of go up and down here. So this motion is just simply this versus this. So I'll show you that here. So you can see there, working the action on a turned down bolt is just a lot easier, a lot less awkward than working the action on a straight bolt whenever you're firing from the shoulder. And the purpose of firing and reloading from the shoulder is obviously it's a lot faster of a firing process. It's a lot faster to shoot. The biggest one is just the time saved whenever you're loading it, working the action, and then pulling it back up and firing. Secondly, you can kind of keep your eyes on the target a little bit better, kind of keep a general sight picture. There's some good pros and some good reasons on why you want to reload from the shoulder, and I think a turn down bolt helps with that immensely. Okay, here's one that I know that May from CNR would agree with me on, and that is a semi-pistol grip. I believe that a semi-pistol grip, although it might be rather trivial sounding, I think it's pretty important to having on a rifle. So I'm a big Swedish Mauser fan, and it breaks my heart that the Swedish M98 does not have a semi-pistol grip. Otherwise, I would think that this would be one of the best bolt-action rifles ever made. However, it doesn't. It has the straight wrist, which is just a lot more of an awkward sort of angle. So whenever you grip a straight wrist, so I have it fully gripped here, and I'm going to move this to my shoulder. I don't know if you can see, it keeps my arm at more of an awkward angle. This is that older sort of chicken wing shooting style, when my arm is kind of pushed straight out. Now you don't have to necessarily do that. I can loosen my grip a little bit and sort of with my pinky and ring finger, and then I can sort of tuck in my arm a little bit better, but it's not as good of a grip. Now with the semi-pistol grip, I'm going to grip that fully and then work that over. You can see how my arm is just naturally angled down better. I don't have this forced chicken wing going on. Also with the semi-pistol grip, I can pull the gun back into my shoulder. It just feels like I have a much better hold of the rifle. And it's one of those things where it sounds minor, but I think that the semi-pistol grip makes a big deal on the overall shootability and handling of a rifle, and that's why it's on my list. The next qualification is going to be for what I think is the best caliber for a bolt-action rifle, and that is going to be in between 6.5 to 7 millimeter. The cartridges that run in that range are just, they're amazing. So you have the 6.5 Japanese, you have 6.5 Swede, and then you have the amazing 7 millimeter Mauser. Those are all three very good cartridges, especially 6.5 Swede and 7 millimeter Mauser. They pack plenty of power. Swedish hunters use 6.5 Swede to this day to take down big game animals in Sweden. They're very deadly, they're very accurate, they have amazing long-range performance, and most importantly for the shooter, they don't beat you up that much. They don't have excessive recoil and excessive muzzle blast. They make good calibers for short or carbine length rifles. You know, you don't want to shoot a carbine length rifle in something really big like 8mm Lebel or Mauser or anything like that. So as much as it breaks my heart, restricting it to 6.5 to 7mm excludes all the amazing German Mausers, like this K98K, who's going to be excluded because it shoots 8mm. And really 7mm is a much better cartridge overall. I get like with machine guns and modern military applications, all that stuff might be different, but just for purely bolt action rifle, 7mm is better. And the Germans even looked at getting 7mm Mauser for themselves, but decided to stick with 8mm Mauser, kind of similar to how the US decided to stick with 30-06. So here we go. Another one that I think is an especially underrated quality in a rifle is the ability to accept a side sling. So that is the sling placement, like on this K98K, or where the sling comes off here to the side. What a sling placement like that allows is whenever you have this rifle to your body, the part touching your body is a nice, flat, smooth area. Whereas if a rifle is underslung, like most traditional rifles are, you have this the semi-pistol grip, you'll have the trigger guard and anything else that may be on your gun poking into your back. Now, I've actually hiked and carried around a rifle for hours and hours before, and I can tell you that if it doesn't have a side sling on it, after a couple hours, this trigger guard or whatever digging into your back or side is going to feel pretty uncomfortable, and you're really going to appreciate the value of a side sling. As far as modern shooters go, it doesn't really matter a whole lot, especially if all you do is go to the range and back. But maybe to a hunter or a woodsman or something like that, I think that's a really good quality to have on a modern bolt-action rifle, and that's why I added it to this list. So the last thing is good sights. So most of the sights on these milsurp rifles are pretty good. They're all meant for pretty long range accuracy, and I mean most rifles are more accurate than we are, so not to get too nitpicky between that stuff. Also, like the aperture versus, like the V-notch rear sights and all that. Me personally, I don't really care. I tend to prefer V-notches a little bit more, just because I like to have that little bit more open sight picture. Apertures, because there is a ring, the ring blocks a good bit of your sight picture, especially like on an M1 rifle. So I prefer a nice open V-notch rear sight. So often overlooked is a good front sight on a rifle. So what you want on a front sight is some type of sight system that is able to protect the blade. So on the Swiss K31 here, it's also on the K11, you have these little wings that stick up and protect the front sight. It's pretty nice because it doesn't really obscure your view a whole lot, and it's nice solid. It's a nice solid piece of steel here to to protect the front sight blade, because you don't want the blade to get dinged up. Also, that front sight, a lot of front sight blades can be really sharp, like on M95s in particular. And that front sight blade, it can really cut you. It can cut rifle cases or anything you have it leaned up against or touching. So having a nice protected front sight like this is nice. And I know a lot of rifles have little slap-on front sight protectors, but really having something built into this is much better than any sort of bolt-on sight protector system. So I think that this Swiss-style front sight is probably the best front sights, especially with the little diagonal track here. So the front sight runs in a diagonal dovetail, which is much better for adjusting the front sight. It's just a very well done and executed front sight. So what I have here is a rifle that pretty much copies the Swiss style of front sight. It has these big, nice protective ears. It's got that diagonal dovetail that the front sight runs in, and as you can see, the front sight ears are just a little bit thicker on this rifle, so that means that it's a little bit stronger, which is nice. It adds a little bit of extra protection. This rifle also has a turn-down bolt handle. It's chambered in 7mm Mauser. The barrel length is about 550 millimeters, which is that nice barrel length sweet spot. It has a pistol grip, really nice. The rifle feels good and handy, and it has a really nice side sling on it. I started looking into this rifle because when I was making this list, I was doing a lot of research and I was trying to find a rifle that really fits all of those criterias. And there's only really like a few of them, and a couple of them turned out to be South American ones. And out of those South American rifles, the Chilean 1935 just really stood out to me as a nice one. Now, the bolt handle is a turn-down bolt handle, but it's not at such a curved angle as like on a K98K. So the bolt handle sticks out a little bit more, and that is actually nice if you do have a stuck cartridge. It does allow you to smack it upwards. I think that this is a pretty nice compromise sort of between the straight and turn down bolt handle. Allows you to get a good grip. The action is amazing. Obviously it's a Mauser, so it takes Mauser style stripper clips. Has a nice, good, strong Mauser 98 action. Has a good rear sight. It's sort of a carbine style rear sight. It goes to 100 to 1400 meters, which is more than enough. So this is sort of the rifle that, according to my list and according to all these little features that I sort of came up with, is of making a good bolt action rifle. This rifle fits all of those criteria. I'm not saying this is necessarily the best rifle ever made, but it sure has a whole lot of the qualities of good bolt-action rifles. What comes in close second is the K31. The barrel is just a little bit too long, I would say, but it's not bad. I've hiked with this gun. I don't know if you saw that video, but I took this gun hiking in the mountains in Utah, and it's not too long. It's not overly heavy. Nice side sling. Now the bolt handle on this one, it does stick out a little bit. However, being straight pull, you don't have to sort of turn this up at an awkward angle. You just work this back and forth. So this sort of gets away from a lot of the cons of a straight bolt handle rifle. And the action is very smooth. It has a nice detachable Lee magazine. So I'd say the K31 is a pretty strong contender for the top spot. Now I know a lot of these features and the points I'm making are pretty arbitrary, but if you disagree, let me know. Let me know on which point you disagree with them. I'm kind of curious on what you guys think. I highly recommend doing something like this yourself, listing out the best traits that you think make a good bolt-action rifle. Do something similar, list out like 5 to 10 of them, and then narrow down the guns and see what fits you. See what characteristics you like the most, what guns sort of fit you the most. So this was a really interesting thought experiment for me, and just trying to figure out maybe what is the best rifle for me. So I would love to hear what you guys come up with. And I'm not saying that like a lot of other YouTubers, like, let me know what you think. And no, like I read all the comments. I'm genuinely curious on what you guys think. So let me know. So to round out this video with a gun joke, What goes bang, 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 ping? Somebody shooting and missing 7 times and then hitting steel on the 8th time. What did you think it was? That's pretty corny. I'm sorry. Thanks for watching. That's dumb. That's dumb. That's not. That's
it's
super
hilarious.
corny.